Rio Hondo Prep Football is one of the best kept secrets in all of Southern California. As one of the smallest enrollments year in and year out, the Cares have won 14 CIF championships and have been one of the most successful programs throughout their history. Welcome to A Charge to Keep, the official podcast of Rio Hondo Prep Football. And now, bringing you the latest news and content from his alma mater, a CIF champion in 2001. From the class of 2003, here's your host, Matt Ursima.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of A Charge to Keep, the official podcast of Rio Hondo Prep Football. And today we have quite the show for you, a very special treat. This show could be pretty controversial for RHP fans and alumni. It's going to be, I don't even know how to describe this, but we're going to do our very best here to really get the fan base fired up about the upcoming season here in 2022. We're in the summer. It's hot. Guys are training, working hard. We're all excited about the season opener on August 26th against the El Monte Lions. But what better way to, I don't know, stir up the masses and get the crowds rallied than to talk about some of the football from the past. And I've been around Rio football since the mid 90s, watching, seeing multiple championships, becoming a player on the team in the early 2000s, played on the last 8-man team, the first ever 11-man team, and have witnessed Rio football into the 2000s for a great amount of time. So I have a pretty good grasp, I think, on some of the best players we've seen in that era. What I don't have a great grasp on is players from, we'll say the early 90s and way before that. So today I'm going to bring on someone who's an RHP alum, a great football player himself. He's been on the Get Home Safe podcast a few times. And today I'm bringing on the podcast, Paul Clark, who played in the 80s. And we're going to chat about Rio football past and, not so much present, but from the past. We're going to do our very best to put together a list of some of the best Rio players throughout the school's history. We don't all have stats, we don't have video and such, but we're going to do our best. Paul's going to help me out with the 70s and 80s. I'm going to do my best with the 90s and the 2000s. We may merge there in the middle, and we're going to try to come up originally with a top 10 list of the best running backs in Rio history, and then just the best defensive players in RHP history. And I say those two categories because when you think of Rio football, you think of the running game, and it's no offense to the offensive line, to the quarterbacks, to the receivers. This is just something I thought we would do because Rio is so known for their running game, has had so many great running backs. So we're going to talk about that. And then I love defense. I love guys who tackle, guys who grind it out. We're going to try to come up with some of the best defenders in Rio Hondo history. This originally was going to be a top 10 list. It might end up being a top 20 list. Maybe we won't rank it at all. We'll just start spewing off names and memories. It's going to be fun. And the one caveat we are going to have here is that I think we're going to not allow guys to be on both lists. So even though most Rio guys go both ways, if you're one of the top running backs, we're not going to have you on the defensive list, just so we get more people involved, more names here. So that is the plan. It's going to be full of debate, controversy. Let's go back in time and awaken the echoes, if you will, awaken the ghosts of football past at RHP. And let's have a conversation about some of the best football players in Rio Hondo Prep history with my good friend, Mr. Paul Clark.
You need more light?
Okay, I am now joined for the first time on the Charge to Keep podcast from the class of 1985, Mr. Paul Clark. Paul, what's up, man?
What's going on, Matt? How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. We're going to attempt to do the impossible today. We're going to try to go back in time and talk RHP football players. We're going to try to make some type of list. We're going to have people angry at us. This is going to be a very controversial podcast, I think.
Good. I like controversy.
I love it.
Hey, you didn't have to put my year I graduated out there, man. I mean,
it's okay, Paul. It's the same year I was born, so we got that in common. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. I even busted out the old jersey for those not watching on YouTube. Dude.
Mine would have been a midriff if I had tried to put mine on.
Well, I'll tell you this. no way I'm getting pads on under this. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
well, at least you got it on as a shirt, man.
That's right.
Mine's not getting over the gut these days.
Hey, we wanted them tight, right? So no one could grab us.
That's true. That's true.
So that's what I'm thinking. So here's what we're going to do today, Paul. You've been on the Get Home Safe podcast before. We ended up talking RHP football. So I thought let's make an RHP football podcast, and this will air at some time here in the summer as a build up to the season. This will get the fans all fired up. And RHP football, past and present. I know it from like the mid 90s until the present. So we're going to put our heads together and come up with some of the top running backs in Rio Hondo prep history and some of the best defensive players in Rio Hondo prep history.
Oh, this is going to be a good one.
Yeah. And it's no offense to the quarterbacks, to the tight ends, to the defensive backs, but well, no, it could be defensive. I'm just talking about overall defensive players and then the running game for Rio. So many great running backs. So we got to go with those two categories. And the one rule, we're not going to let someone be on both lists, even though most of these guys would probably be on both lists. And the whole reason for that is to get more names out there. What do you think?
I think that's a good idea. I think a lot will be an honorable mention too.
Oh yeah.
Because there's
just
so many athletes that have gone through Rio Hondo. It's ridiculous.
No doubt about it. And we're going to try to put together, the top 10, whatever. We were talking off air. This may end up being a huge list. So again, we're just going to do our best to talk, awaken the echoes, if you will. So before we get into the list, I've heard you talk about it before, but just what does Rio Hondo football mean to you, Paul? Why is it such a big brand, or should be a bigger brand than it is? What makes it so special?
I'm glad you asked that one. I have often had talks with past players and coaches and staff that are still there now. I think for one, a certain half of Rio Hondo football, so I say a certain half, meaning over the last 30 years, 40 years or whatever, Rio Hondo football to me has meant a whole lot of things. And it's not just about football. It's about your character, the way you perform on the field, almost I don't know, like a military feel to it, as far as, how you always hear those slogans, you never leave a man behind type of thing, your family, your brotherhood, all that kind of stuff. Well, when I was growing up, and I'm watching Rio Hondo football in the 70s, that was definitely the feel. And I was just a little kid, and I couldn't put the words that I'm putting forth now, but you knew it was something different. Like, to me, I could be totally wrong, but to me, the last, I'd say after my brother graduated, maybe stopped in like 95, 96, 97, 98, maybe 2000s, early 2000s. I saw a change in the program down there. And I saw that as far as the kids, the way they played and things like that. And it was sad to see, but I don't know I really don't know what to call it or pinpoint it. But we didn't care how big the other team was. We didn't have to be as athletic as the other teams, but the people that put on those jerseys back in the 70s, 80s, and mid 90s, all the way 2000s, we played a certain way. And there was a swag to us. But there was no fear. There was a 100%. You just give whatever you have out on the field. And I think, I don't know. I'm not saying all of the players do that, but it's not the same. It hasn't translated over these last few years. Although Rio Hondo has had some great programs, they've had some great athletes go through that program. The football team this last year was fun to watch. They were a very athletic, great team. Not saying they didn't have it. Not saying some of the kids on that team didn't have it, but I've seen that type of that play trickle off. So I think that's part of the program that Rio Hondo tries to put forward is, hey, we don't have to be as big as those other guys over there. We don't have to be as fast. We have to play as a team, and we have to play with the desire to just leave everything out there. I mean, don't be afraid of who's in front of you. Just go do it, and let your heart take over. And I think that's missing sometimes latter programs of late. I mean, like I said, I don't want to say all the kids have gone to the wayside that way, but that 77 football team, I guess I put a high benchmark on them. That would be like Scott Weidman, Jim Hanna, Mike Murphy, Mike McGarren, some other players that aren't around anymore. They moved on, but those players set a bar for me and a lot of guys after me of how you play, because we weren't fast. We were kind of small. We had some athletes, but we that game was just, I mean, you got to watch the 8mm tape of that game, dude. It'll change your mind, man.
It's so good. Well, it's funny that, once the bar is set, it's like, okay, this is the standard. And so anything below that is like, hey, you gotta, and that's the pressure, the privilege of pressure at Rio Hondo is you got teams to live up to kind of what you're talking about. And it's not like there hasn't been teams like that in recent years. Last year's team, some of the guys that played on those teams, I couldn't believe, them beating Charter Oak. Just some phenomenal players.
Huge win.
Yeah, a huge win. One of the biggest in school history, hands down. Right. And you know what? Also, Paul, I found out that the older we get, the better we were, if you know what I mean, too. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but all of us tend
Absolutely, man. I was the best to walk on the Rio Hondo football field in my mind.
I love it. That's where the controversy comes from. One other rule we will save for our list here is that this is all former players. So no current players can be on this list. These are just some ground rules. And to start things off, Paul, I'm going to just throw this out there and we'll go from there. I'm going to tell you the first two people I think of when I think of Rio Hondo Prep running backs and the Rio Hondo Prep defensive players. The first Rio Hondo Prep running back I think of is Landon Goodwill. Yes. He, I believe, is the all-time leading rusher. I got to play with him for a couple of years, so I'm a little biased there. The best defensive player I think of right off the top when I think of Rio Hondo Prep football is Jason Ramos, one of the scariest defenders out there. Played 4 years of varsity, not very tall, but man, that guy was violent and a nice kid off the field. But oh my goodness, you put a helmet on that guy, he was an assassin. So those are the two guys I think of. Who are your two that you think of off the bat, running back and defensive player?
Oh my goodness. That's really, really hard. It really is. You're naming, the players you played with, and I agree with you with those players. Absolutely. 100%. But I've played with so many or have seen so many from the time I started Rio Hondo Prep as a kid until I graduated that list is ridiculous. There was a player not many people probably mentioned, or you might not even heard about him, but his name was Robert Morales. He was brutal. He played defense and offense. So, but he looked like Adonis as a high school player. And he could definitely be on that list. But there's also Norm Schultz as far as running back. Maybe didn't have all the numbers. Definitely one of the toughest that I've ever seen come through. But if you're going to go by numbers, pure numbers, and their accomplishments, Scott Moore would have to be up there because he had to split time with some other running backs, and he still ran for over 1,000 yards easily. And it was, their team was so sick that I think their closest game was maybe a 21-point game.
A 1982 champs, undefeated season, right? I think they, at the time, for a long time, they had the most wins in school history. Maybe it was 14-0, I think, right?
Right, exactly right. Yep.
So, yeah, it's Scott Moore, big time running back there. So, again, these are names I know, but I didn't get to see in person. So that's where our dynamic's going to come in here.
Right. Absolutely.
So you got Robert Morales, you said. When did he play? You said he was a pretty nasty defender?
Yes, very, very much so. He was back in the early 80s. He had went there, an older brother named Ed Morales, who played quarterback. He was a pretty cool quarterback. He was very, very confident, cocky little guy, smooth. Didn't put up really big numbers, but he was a good quarterback. And he also had a sister who was a little bit older than me that I went to high school with. I went to high school with Robert too. So I think he was 81, maybe something like that. 82. But yeah, he's definitely on that list. Don Bedoya is another one who was on that 82 squad. I think he had over like 700 yards, and he was a fullback. This guy was so crazy though. So he had a little bit of an edge. So he comes from Stockton, California. He didn't come up through the KYL
Okay.
nice boy system, where we be nice to everybody. Matter of fact, I think he came down this way. He had to move down with his dad because he was getting into trouble up there in Stockton, maybe borderline joining gangs type of thing. So he was a tough guy already coming in. He's throwing up every halftime, not from fear or anything like that, but he would just throw up every halftime, then come out and blast you, for the whole second half. Good guy, super tough kid. He could definitely be on that top notch in the 70s, 80s type of player for one of the toughest. I mean, Peter Amundsen, Big Pete, running back wise, I would not want to tackle him one-on-one. Never.
Here's a question. Here's a little crossover here. So Pete Amundsen Sr., a great running back. His son, Pete Amundsen Jr., an absolute ox inside.
Right.
Head to head. How about those two guys
Ooh,
meeting
that's a
in
good
a
one
hole?
right there.
You know what I'm saying? Boom.
Hey,
who wins that one?
Hey, Pete Amundsen Sr. does, though.
Yeah.
Because he was one of those, he had the beast mode, that
Yeah.
old Rio Hondo school thing I was telling you about. He definitely had that. He was, yeah.
That would be great, man. Hey, Dad, you and me, one-on-one. Let's go. Oklahoma drill. Let's do this.
Definitely. Yeah, Big Pete's going to win that one.
All right.
Sorry, Pete Jr. We have a Big Pete's winning that one.
And here, I mean, it's interesting already here. We've rattled off some names. I wrote down like 20 names. I tried from each thing. I tried to throw in some names that were like from, the eras I didn't know much about. And you already mentioned some names I didn't write down. I did write down Pete Amundsen Sr. as a, because I heard great things, but his son, I'll give it. And we're not making the list right now. I'm just saying his son, Pete Jr. was just such a bull inside, just super quiet. But my goodness, he would just grab everything that moved. I mean,
right, definitely. and a lot of these guys, okay, so the way he played, now take that who his dad was. Do you know what I mean? So that there's some of that cloth that I was talking about, the old cloth, the way that it's cut. He's cut from that old cloth of Rio Hondo football. So it's not surprising that Junior had that, that style of play.
Well, we could even make a list here of like, man, what would be a fun one is like just the best RHP football families. I mean, the Hannah name, you mentioned there, the Clarks are up there. We got the Amundsens. I mean, there's a ton of names. The Carsons. Oh my God. How can I, the Johnsons? Hello.
Yep.
I mean, so on that note, I never saw Rick Johnson play, but I heard he was one of the top running backs in Rio history.
Dude, he was a beast. Rick Johnson also, he played. He was an angry kid. He played with like a little bit of anger. He did, but it was good. It was good anger. It was focused. Like you didn't want to tick him off, and he had like a purpose. Todd Carson was the same way. Oh my goodness. And he weighed nothing but 3 pounds, but Todd Carson, Dave Carson, they gave you every pound they had, all 10 pounds of them. They gave it to you good, dude.
So you hear the stories, and that's probably Rick and Todd being extra tough and nasty because they had some older brothers that maybe picked on them a little bit, Randy and Dave there. So, okay, you got to help us solve this argument here. The 1990 team, really good team. Two great. Any good Rio team has usually a couple good running backs.
Right.
The fullback position was always featured in the Rio offense. Some of the better guys. Mike Whiteside, Rick Johnson. Who do you give the edge to there in that backfield?
Mike Whiteside is on my list, definitely. Mike Whiteside was a bad dude. If I had to say it, talent-wise, Mike Whiteside. But I think he knew he had the talent, and he kind of effortlessly did what he did. You know what I mean? To whereas he could have, if he would have put Rick Johnson in him, he'd be up there with Landon with yards, dude.
Wow.
He was fast. He had a great size to him. So athletic and smooth on the field. But he didn't have to do much to achieve much. Do you know what I mean? Does that make any sense?
Oh yeah. Plus you got other great talent around you too.
Right. And he got Jeff Fairley, Rick Johnson. I mean, the team was stacked. They had a great squad too. But Rick Johnson, if you're on the goal line, I'm definitely giving it to Rick Johnson. Definitely giving it to Rick Johnson.
He's the Marshawn Lynch of Rio football. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Mike Whiteside, you can give it to him on the goal line, but he's going to go wide and outrun you to the cones easily. and do it while he's looking at you while you're trying to catch him. You know what I mean? He's gonna turn around, clown you while he's going into the end zone. But if you're trying to get that hard yard, definitely Rick Johnson. Not that Mike couldn't get it for you, but Mike's like, why am I going to do that when I can just run around you?
You know what I mean? Less pain. Those fast. I've never been fast in my life. I've always wanted to be fast. And yeah, I'm definitely envious of anybody who has speed. Let me bring up two names that I think one probably fits on one side of the ball and one on the other, or maybe both of them on defense. One name we just mentioned. I heard Dave Carson was an absolute maniac on the defensive side of the ball.
That's what I just mentioned. He didn't weigh anything but maybe $145 at tops, maybe. But that guy would destroy you if you came anywhere near him. He put every single pound he had and would lay out some of the biggest players on the field. And talk about both sides of the ball. This dude would catch anything that was around him. And I would like to take a little bit of credit for that. Me and my guys, because when we started at Care Youth League, well, actually in Rio Hondo Prep, Dave used to like hanging around us. We were only a couple of years apart. So Dave used to like every time, but he was super, super quiet, much like he is now. But he would never say anything. But he always liked hanging around us. And I would always pick him on our football teams because we played tackle football every stinking recess. Didn't matter what time of year it was. Didn't matter if it was baseball season, basketball, we're playing tackle football. And Dave always wanted to play. And he'd get roughed up out there with us, but he would never cry, dude, never whine. Because we'd slam kids down. We didn't care. Shirts were getting ripped off, bloody noses. It was okay back then. The teachers, nobody was getting sued back then. You know what I mean? And Dave was a beast out there. Never complained, always wanted to hang around us. And I think, and like I said, with that certain cloth that Rio Hondo Prep people have and Care Youth Leaguers from old school, he definitely had that. Same with his brothers. And luckily for me, he was on my team, and I didn't have to go up against him. He would have been one of the guys I tried to outrun. I wouldn't try to run him over.
Yeah.
I'd try to outrun him.
And now he's just super nice, Pastor Carson. And at one time he was crazy.
And that's the thing, dude. He was like that. Like even in high school, super nice guy, very, very quiet. But get him on that field, dude. And same with Todd though. Todd. I think Todd was a little bit more crazy. Like,
yeah.
You really didn't want to tick off Todd Carson, dude. He was just a beast. Yeah, he was awesome too, man. Yep.
Oh my goodness, so many great names.
I wish you would have seen those guys play.
Oh, I know. It's one regret. I mean, I was old enough. I could have seen him had I just found Rio earlier. But what about someone like Rod Heaton? I know he banged up his hamstring, right? Or he may have ran for even more yards.
Yeah, I was gonna put him up there as one of the toughest running backs too, but he's definitely on the list. And another thing for poor Rod, his team was just they were terrible. They were just terrible. He didn't have any blocking, the poor guy. If he played on a team with a little bit more talent and more help, he definitely would have been up there. But that guy was super. He was like a brick, super solid to hit. Yeah, you didn't want to hit him. We used to practice against them, during the week, and varsity and JV, and you didn't really want to hit Rod too much during practice because he was a solid dude, man. And if he was coming downhill, if he got downhill, pretty good, I'm grabbing jerseys or I'm quitting on the play during practice. You know what I mean? You don't want to take him in the thighs. You definitely don't want to take him in the thighs, man.
No, I'm going to go right now. I'm going to bring a little more modern era here. I'm going to throw out two names on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know how much you remember them, but number one, for not in order, but I'm saying first guy I'll mention is Cody Cowell.
Oh yeah,
him
definitely.
On deep. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that dude was scary out there in a good way. I mean, you just like, do not mess with that guy.
Right. Definitely. No. I saw him play. I absolutely agree.
Yeah,
absolutely agree.
He was kind of the anchor of a defense there during a very special time in Rio history with multiple championship game appearances, and really, I think took 11-man to a whole nother level. He's just on every tackle, and specifically in that Salesian game, that semifinal. You remember that one?
Yes, I do. It still breaks my heart.
No, not that one. The semifinal, the one that Rio won. They knocked out a bunch of quarterbacks.
Oh yeah.
At home, the semifinal, a couple years later, that one did hurt, but it was Cody who would not let that team intimidate our guys, and he stepped up. Cody was a big time leader in that game, physically and vocally, and that's something I'll always remember because those guys were dirty.
And that right there, you're right, because it reminded me of, okay, that's how Rio Hondo plays football. That's, we're taking up. We're not going to be bullied by all these thugs and these guys that are going to try to get in our face like the Christian school can't. You know what I mean? Because when I was coming up, we had to play against a prison school, and they actually did that to us when we weren't being intimidated by them. And then they just started cheap shotting us and taking penalties. If they didn't care about penalties or anything, because they saw that we weren't intimidated. But then once they saw that, then they started doing the cheap shotting thing. Mr. Lundy called me out one time because I quit on my team, and I was more worried about getting cheap shotted, and it was terrible, dude. But he definitely was like, yeah, you're not gonna punk us, and that was good to see.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. He was one of the toughest guys I think of when I think of just the Rio Hondo toughness there. Another guy that I think he's from Turkey, or his parents, Arthur Taskison, man.
I knew you were gonna say Arthur. Yeah.
Ardo was just this guy he'd do anything for you on the team. But I just remember as a linebacker, that dude made some tackles and was just always around the ball.
Dude, much like Kyle Corral. Kyle Corral was the same way. A little quiet, but he just went out and did his job. Yeah, definitely. Both those guys were on that list. Those guys are still, I consider them still kind of old schoolish, because there was still that, hey, this is the way Rio Hondo football players play type of mentality still. And they, like I said, we didn't have to have all the talent, but the way we played showed a lot, and it rubbed off on other people on the field. You know what I mean? Rubbed off on your teammates, and if people are watching and they're younger, then they're like, okay, you kind of be like, I want to play like him. I know when I was younger, a lot of our boys came to the games, and watched. And I think that's where, because we had a huge class that were super loved football. So when we watched the 77, 76, 77 teams, those were our coaches out there, right? So we're like, look at our coaches go. They were heroes to me. They still are heroes. I look at Jim Hanna, I look at Scott Weidman, I look at Mike Murphy, and I still am in amazement of what they did as just teenage boys against Montclair Prep, who just outsized us, had way more talent than us, and they just went in there and went toe to toe. Mike Murphy was no bigger than a thumbtack, and he played defensive end, dude.
Tough as nails. If there's a pound for pound toughness list, he's definitely near the top of it, right?
Oh, he's probably number one. I'm not gonna kid you. Yeah. He's probably number one. He's like, wow. They came out with the honey badger, and all that honey badger stuff. And then they called Taryn Matthew that honey badger, whatever. He had nothing on Mike Murphy, bro.
Wow. Oh, wow. I love stories like this. Yeah, no, and a couple of guys I think of too with toughness too, that again, they were right after me. I get to play a few snaps with them when they were sophomores, but they were two guys that went to the finals. They anchored a really good defense in 2004. And that's my good friend, Freddie Monteblanco and AJ Corsini. Fred would go out there. I think he had a broken bone in his arm or his wrist or something. He put a full cast on. He went out there, and then AJ's like the smallest, I shouldn't say small, shortest like defensive lineman out, talking like Mike Murphy. I mean, those two guys were blue collar, just tough in the mud kind of guys.
Definitely. And I totally agree with that. I got to watch those guys play as well. I didn't see a lot of their games. I did the hit and miss type thing, but I definitely agree with those two. AJ, and it doesn't seem like AJ would be that way, does it? Like, he's such a cool, like, you look at him, you're like, really? You were like that? He's such a cool kickback jokester type of guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like Doug Walsh was the same way. You know Dr. Walsh.
Okay, yeah, kind-hearted Dr. Walsh. I've seen Weidman posted a still photo of him ripping some guy's helmet off.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. You got to mess with Doug Walsh. Same way, dude. Same way. And Norm Schultz, he wasn't a big dude, but he was a crazy guy. He was a running back. If I had to put craziness or the toughest out there, he was one of the ones that he's probably up at the top. because Norm Schultz was a running back who broke through the line, who had nothing but field and end zone over here. The free safety's 10 yards to his left and downfield. Norm turns his body and directs himself right at the free safety to run him over. I kid you not. He's the only guy I know that it got called for we don't know what the penalty was called. I got called for spearing my senior year when I was playing quarterback. I got called for spearing. I ran a guy over. They called me for spearing. But Norm Schultz, he did like this forearm shiver on this guy. He had him wrapped around his waist, and he's going down the middle of the field. He just did his forearm shiver, comes down on this guy's back. The dude crumbles to the ground. And he rolls it for a touchdown. But they call a penalty on it. They didn't know what to call. They said he was hit too hard.
Yeah, can't do that.
It doesn't make any sense because he didn't do anything illegal. He did like a kind of a weird stiff arm, but he hit the guy so hard the guy just crumbled and Norm just kept going. But he's the only guy I've ever seen get called for a penalty while running the ball.
Wow,
for hitting too hard.
That's a good one.
Only guy ever.
Norm Schultz sounds like a guy you want as your teammate for sure.
Yeah, man,
my guy,
dude,
my guy Fred, man. Yeah, at Rio you get so much diversity in your the positions you play. Like Todd, you mentioned quarterback and defensive end, right? Fred,
right.
Strong safety, and they threw him in at offensive line because they needed bodies, and he didn't know what
right.
he was. He's like, "Where are we going? In what direction?" Okay, so he was that type of guy. This was a guy, I think, probably the MVP of the Rio's first championship game, victory, I will say, in the 11-man era. And that is Kurt Coulter.
I heard about Kurt Coulter. I didn't get to see much of him play, dude. I heard he was sick. My brother tells me tons of stories about him, dude.
Oh, a freshman when I was a senior, came up like second game, played defensive end. I always had to show Kurt where to line up, but that was, he was a freshman. He played tight end and defensive end for 3 years. And then his senior year, he switches to two different positions, wide receiver and middle linebacker. He was a star at both, but just one of the toughest football players I've ever seen, and especially as a middle linebacker. And we go back to the families, his brother, Josh Coulter, right?
There you go. Yep.
The Coulter family. You love seeing all these families in the RHP history there. So that's those are a few names, and I'll come back to a few some names from, we'll say, the modern era that pop out to me. Who are some other names from the 70s and 80s on both sides of the ball that you remember?
Well, I liked Dave Guerrero as quarterback. I loved him as quarterback. Dave Guerrero was a great quarterback in my eyes. Super, super smart. He was probably one of the smoothest athletes I've ever seen out there. Same with Scott Weidman. Scott Weidman, I think, brought some swag. He was the first person to bring some swag to Rio Hondo Prep, man. It was cool. I'm not kidding, man. He walked up to the line. He'd look around. He reminded me of like a Joe Namath. If anybody listening out there remembers Joe Namath. He had that confidence, and everything else, but he wasn't trying to tackle. He played safety on a defense. He wasn't trying to tackle anybody. He was like a Deion Sanders on defense. Well, on offense, dude, he was a good quarterback, really good quarterback. He actually, my senior year, he would take me out and work out with me because I played quarterback my senior year. So he worked out with me a lot my senior year and helped me to do what I did my senior year. But definitely Dave Guerrero. I don't know if you have heard this guy's name, Chuck Mariotti.
Oh yeah, injured in the 77 game.
Yes, 77. Yep. Super. Oh my goodness. Awesome. Dave McClellan, Ken Fuller.
Ken Fuller, yeah. Dude,
these guys were gross. They were just, I'm telling you, bar setters, super bar setters. I had Mike Dorr. He was a great tight end. Great defensively too. He was 6'4", 6'5", big dude. I don't know if you've heard much of him. He wasn't a running back. He played tight end and defensive end, but he wasn't a guy you messed with either. I remember he impressed me when he came in as a freshman or a sophomore against Montclair Prep in the mud, and went toe to toe with their big guys. He did really well, man. He was a good ball player. Good ball player.
I love it. There were, let me see here. Who did I have? I had somebody right here I was thinking about. Oh, someone we kind of didn't mention from the 90 team who I was told was the guy that you just defensively, he was around every tackle, almost like a Troy Polamalu type of guy.
I know what you're going to say, but say it.
Who do I got?
I think you're gonna say David Joe.
Yes, sir. Dave Joe.
Right, yep.
Hey, what do you think? The best Asian football player ever? I mean, gotta be, right?
Hey, Andy Chang might argue with that.
Hey, my buddy Jordan Ross, he's like, hey, come on, guys.
Jordan, yeah.
You know,
Jordan, he's I don't know. He has to be. I think you can't be mixed with anything. You have to be full Asian. So it's got to narrow the list down, bro.
Okay, it's all okay. We're making this up as we go.
Yeah, we're making it up as we go.
Andy Chang, I can just see him jumping out of his chair. But come on, no, Dave Joe, just what a defender, man.
Dude, he was bad. Yeah,
what a football player, right?
Yeah, definitely. He was hard nosed, and he didn't weigh anything but $125, maybe $130. But he was always on the ball, and he wasn't scared to hit anybody, bro. He was another one of those crazy dudes. But to put every single pound they had into every single hit, you know what I mean? That my brothers, that 90 team, they were very, very unique. But I would like to say, I almost want to say they kind of cheated because they all played ball since they were 3 years old.
Yeah, yeah, they redshirted, yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, they literally, Rick Johnson, Todd Carson, Mike Whiteside, who else on that? What are the other leaders' kids and younger ones that started? Well, at least like 6 or 7 of them, though, had been playing since they were literally 3 and 4 years old, 5 years old together.
Yeah.
So they knew each other like the back of their hand, and they were fun to watch. They were really fun to watch because they played really well as a team. I want to just go off track real quick to basketball.
Let's do it.
The only reason why I want to bring up team-wise, though, they went back to Washington, I believe it was, to go play, while they're, one of their that awesome season they had in basketball. And they got laughed at when they walked into a gym. They went to Washington, D.C., played all these brothers, 6 foot and 6'5" and taller, whatever. Huge, just laughed at. And my brother and Rick Johnson, Todd Carson, they ran them off the floor. And they didn't do it because they were, with their size or, anything like. They just did it because they're a better team. And they just knew how to play ball, and they're really smart. You know what I mean? And I think that went on to the football field as well. Not to mention, I got to bring it up again, that cloth that they cut, that Rio Hondo cloth, all those guys were cut from that cloth, bro. So you were going to get every single bit of their pain, all of it.
Yeah, no, I feel you there. And it was just guys like everyone knew their role too.
Yes.
To kind of echo or keep going with guy like Dave Joe, he knew where to fit in. Everyone knew how to contribute and did it to the very best of their ability. I'm going to go to the late 90s here on the offensive side of the ball. I'll say the guy that followed this guy first, just to build it up. I love my guy, Steve Almond. I loved watching him run the ball. He always ran like he was mad at somebody. Steve did everything that way. But I remember him running the ball there in the, right before my era. He was a Gator. So I was really fired up with that. That's why Arthur comes to mind too. But the guy we cannot leave off this list on the running back side of things is none other than Jacob Blake, one of the best athletes.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
All around in Rio history.
All around. That's true.
Yeah, he'd take the ball and just be gone. It's like, where'd he go? Where'd who go?
That's true. You're exactly right. We don't want to leave him off.
Jacob Blake, sweep right, sweep left. It was like, oh my goodness. It's just.
Was it still a Power 31 back in the late 90s? Was it still called Power 31?
Yeah, Power 31. I mean,
Yep.
Might as well have been called, Power 6+1 because it was going to be a touchdown and an extra point. But
right.
Blake was just, Almond ran angry and mad. Blake just ran like nothing bothered him. Like it was, I imagine maybe kind of what Mike Whiteside, to what you said earlier, similar maybe in that kind of style.
Right.
Interesting.
And
well, Blake,
you say ran mad. You say Steve ran mad. And I did not bring up Greg Bollinger on that list. I have him on my list. I got to mention him because he was the same way, dude. He played everything angry though. I mean, if you had to coach against him, you know how he played ball then. And I tried to tell his sons. I remember I think it was Clark, as after passing the Pauley game, few years back, Nate Tycho's senior year, and it was at Pauley. And I was talking to Greg and Diana after the game, and Clark was there listening and whatnot. And I said, "Hey, Clark, man, your dad was a pretty pretty darn good athlete, man. I said he was pretty stinking good at football. And he looked at me. I kid you not. He looked at me like I told him aliens were real. Like, I kid you not. And when I told him that, Greg looked at him and said, see, I told you I was good. They don't believe me, Paul. I'm like, dude, he was bad. I remember a game, I think it was 79, where he ran against, we played against Pauley before Pauley had their own home field. And he ran for like 150 yards and 4 touchdowns without even getting tackled the whole game. His uniform was completely clean when the game was over. He might have had one little grass stain, but that was it. It might have been because he was tackling somebody.
Yeah, that's a great story. And when you think of him, you think of the 77 game as a sophomore making that tackle on the goal line. Remember, he was
exactly.
It's just a sophomore stepping up in a big play there.
Right.
You mentioned a name also there we have to talk about as far as yards go at Rio Hondo Prep. Nate Tycho. I mean, I always felt every game I watched with him, it was like the second or third play of the game, he'd bust off some 70-yard run. It seemed that way every game.
He was a beast. I thought I was working out with him a little while after he graduated because he was thinking about playing ball at PCC or go JUCO route or whatever. And I was kind of disappointed when he didn't want to keep going because I wanted to see what else he could do because he was pretty talented. I thought he was really talented. He had great vision to me on the field, great vision. And he wasn't like he didn't power over you too much, but he had that power if he needed it. You know what I mean? And and he just so, I mean, he was really, really good, man. And his brother wasn't too shabby either. Alex was too.
No. The family,
shabby.
Alex won. They were both on a championship team together, which is pretty awesome. And as a senior, Alex was getting more of the carries, of course. But what a special moment for the Tycho family. Now, we just talked about the Asian players not too long ago. Filipino, right? These guys got to be on there.
Nope, they can't. They can't be. Their mom's Latina. They can't be. You gotta keep the list short. Dave Joe wants to be the best Asian player. You gotta keep the list short, man.
Oh, this is fantastic. I love it. I had no idea we'd go this route. Alex and Nate, we love you guys.
Yeah, we do. We love the Tychos. Oh, you guys, we're just teasing.
Oh, of course. This is fun. And I think, if I remember correctly, Nate was number 2 or number 3 on the all-time rushing list, I believe.
I think he was, yep.
Yeah.
Hey, and let's go back here. They're cut from that old cloth, dude. I'm telling you. They were Atlantic Pirates. There's no such thing as an Atlantic Pirate anymore. They were Atlantic Pirates. They're cut. That was still when old school Rio Hondo Prep, K-Youth League type of style of football was still implemented. These kids were still getting that you know what I mean?
Well, there's that pride. Like, as much as I despise the Atlantic Pirates, there's respect because we grew up Gators and Pirates. We were the 2 best teams at everything. And it was just like, it was a war. And it was like, but yeah, even in high school, you'd have your teammates now, but you still have Atlantic pride. Mr. Lee still got a pirate flag in his garage or whatever. Like,
exactly.
I missed that. I wasn't a fan of the names changing. So disappointing, but hey, you're right. Back to the cloth, like you're saying. Now a recent alumni that I want to throw out there because he was so fun to watch. And in my opinion, his career numbers could have been even better than they were because of the limited amount of games. And that's 2022 graduate, Mr. Jonathan Guerrero.
Oh my goodness. Wasn't he good, dude?
Oh my, every time you see him, your jaw just dropped.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie. I don't like really saying this, but
oh boy.
I mean, I probably could have learned some things from him had I watched him play. Like if he was younger, and like maybe a senior when I was a sophomore or freshman, and if I would have went out and watched him play, I could have learned a few things that I could have implemented in my game when I got older. Put it that way. When I was watching him play, I was thinking to myself, like, dude, if I would have done that, or if I would have did that, or had that style or whatever, I could have been even better watching him play. Because he and we weren't big. I wasn't a big dude. I weighed 155 though, but I wasn't tall, And Jonathan was so dang quick, and he the way he cut, and oh my goodness, he was so good.
Bowling ball. Awesome to watch. I mean, this is a theme now. You mentioned his dad earlier. It's that tradition, the cloth. I mean, you're right.
In the family. Yep.
Oh my goodness. Right. But again, if we're doing a pound for pound list, I mean, he's up there, man, because I'm sure he got laughed at plenty of times when people saw this is your guy's best player. Like, who's this guy? But never got taken
on the field.
yeah, until he gave him the ball a few times. It's like, where'd he go? But
Right.
I think as far as the career yardage go, because Nate and Landon played 3 or 4 years of varsity. Jonathan got some carries as a freshman, had a great year as a sophomore, only a 3-game season his junior year. So, and then of course a great year last year. So I would argue he might be the real all-time rushing leader had he had 4 full seasons there, Paul.
Had high school been college to where these kids were extended another year, he would have ripped off a gang of yards this year, bro.
Yeah.
He'd have tore the league up.
Yeah. And you talked about his dad. His dad's decent height, quarterback, great. Yeah. And again, his brothers played ball too, as well at Rio. But Jonathan, it was just like, I remember the first time I saw him, I'm like, wait, who's this guy? Like, what's the deal here? But then every time I saw him, he got better, stronger. I think more than anything in following the team the past couple of years, as far as work ethic, I'm talking off the field, practice, preparation, all extra stuff. That guy just took his game to the next level.
Yeah, he did. And I like that because we never did that back when I was in high school. And none of the other teams did either. We never went to the weight room. We never did any of that crud because I don't know why. Maybe we thought we were too busy or whatever, but I like how they've implemented a weight program and stuff like that at Rio. And they got a weight room now and something legit that these kids can go and actually take their game to the next level. And I love how his work ethic has gone there. But it doesn't surprise me because who his parents are. Teresa and Dave are great parents, and Dave is such a good guy. I mean, he's one of the best players I've ever got to play with, and one of the nicest guys. He was always showing me Jonathan's videos too, as Jonathan was coming up through Carey League, because he even said, "Hey, ask Paul." Paul wasn't a big guy in high school, and because I think Jonathan, when he was younger, didn't know what kind of success he was going to have, obviously because he was small. And it was after Andy Chang's wedding. I totally remember. We were walking out of Andy Chang's wedding, and Dave and I were talking, and he saw it. Jonathan, this is Paul right here. He was my running back, and when he was a junior, but he wasn't big either. Ask him how he did it. And we talked a little bit, and I think Jonathan, as he got older, he saw how good he was. He saw and he got confidence and more confidence. He got a little bit bigger. And he put that work ethic into, like, I'm not going to let my size, the height, I should say, stop me from achieving, what I can achieve. And he went out and did it.
Yeah, I think a lot of guys could learn from watching him. He's got natural talent as well, and
definitely
comes from a great family as well. So, Jonathan, welcome to the alumni club, my brother, and good luck to. Hey, anytime you can play ball somewhere else after high school, Paul. He's playing at Kansas. Kansas Wesleyan. I mean, hey, good luck to Jonathan.
Dude, that's so amazing. I think it's great because, for one, I think as a parent, if you have a son or a daughter and they can further their education in college for free, or at least partially scholarship, whatever, you're jumping up and down for that. And I think that's great. Oh,
definitely. Yeah. And, I think Coach Carson said it when he signed. He said, "Congrats, Jonathan. You're going to make some coaches look really smart." And I think he absolutely will.
Absolutely.
We just kind of been bouncing names out here, and this is fine. I'm having fun with this. I want to throw out some more names. Okay, let's see. You and me know that I don't know much. I remember watching one of these guys in the mid 90s as I was just starting to watch Rio football, and the other name I don't know as well. So I'll let you talk about both these guys if you remember, and that is let's see, Josh Krieger. I remember running the ball. Remember watching him a lot, liked his game early. And then Ed Maldonado, I didn't really ever see him play. What was he like?
Dude, he was a beast too. Super good talent. Yeah, both those guys you named. The Kriegers, Atlantic Pirates, baby.
Oh, like go
Come
figure.
On. I'm trying to tell you, man. Atlantic, we brought some athletes in, bro. And the thing is, I got to watch them grow up in Carey Youth League as well. So them playing as little boys and then growing up to, going to high school and playing and doing what they did in high school, as little kids in Atlantic and doing it now in high school. Josh Krieger, let me tell you about Josh. This guy was so shifty. I don't think he ever got a solid hit on him ever. And matter of fact, there was a rain game. We used to, when I was still in shape and stuff, we go outside, we play football in El Nino. Remember when El Nino came to town?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And all that rained for so many months. It was freezing outside. So me, Ken Lee, Jeff Fairley, my brother, who else played out there? Josh Krieger. We brought a couple of guys with us. Rick Johnson, Jeff Fairley, Taglioni, Marcelo Taglioni. We were all playing out in the rain, dude. I mean, it was coming down good. And I kept saying to myself, I'm going to knock the dog crud out of Josh Krieger. And I tried for 3 hours trying to put him on his back, and I never got him. Every time I was holding on for dear life onto his jersey because he was so shifty, dude. Because I thought, man, these dudes ain't no good out there that he's playing against. I'm going to, if I play against them, and I finally got a chance to play against them, I never got one clean tackle on him. That guy was so good. It was fun to play against him, even though it wasn't on the same level as high school football, but we went out there for 3 hours and did it. And to bring up families and stuff like that, I said Ken Lee. Those guys were pretty tough too, dude. Those guys, Ken Lee was tough. Bill Lee, John. Ken, when we played in that rain game, he just played in a pair of shorts and his cleats. He took off his shirt, dude. No shirt on, nothing. And it was probably 50 degrees outside, maybe 49, 48.
You're gonna have to break some hearts here. Those Lee boys are very competitive. We're talking just football right now. Who was the best football player of the 3 Lee boys? We have to. You're the only guy who can help us here, Paul.
Right.
There's no wrong answer.
Like you said, man, I'm gonna get a lot for this because I talk to them all the time still. I'm gonna have to go, Bill.
Really? Okay.
Well, and I'm thinking strictly defense though right now.
Okay. Yeah. Because Ken, I think, didn't run the ball as much as maybe he wanted to because he had to be moved around and stuff. So defensively, yeah. Bill, even scary back then.
Yeah, definitely. And but trust me, Ken's not far off. I mean,
no,
it could probably be a little tied. Yeah, definitely between those two. I might just give the edge to Bill, but yeah, I don't know. Ken, I'm sure I'm gonna hear it from Ken. But
sure. For sure. Absolutely. All those Atlantic Pirate guys. Here we go.
Yep. There we go.
I'm telling you, man, this podcast, this is something, we've all done at games before, talking on the sideline. Oh yeah. What about so-and-so? What about so-and-so? And so now we get to do it and hopefully have some people hear these names and we can get the juices flowing here for another upcoming season, man.
Definitely.
Where were we? So yeah, Josh Krieger, man. I remember every time in that 95 game, unfortunately we lost, whatever. He had punt return, long touchdown. Every time I looked up, he was retaking the lead for Rio, or at least it seemed like as a young kid.
No, he was good, dude. He was legit. He's legit too. Super legit.
A guy, I threw him on here. I don't know if he's one of the greatest ever or anything, but I wanted to mention him just because when we talk about, again, back to the Asian football players, Yoshi Nagaoka from Japan, one of the fastest dudes I've ever seen. And I don't know if he knew a whole lot of plays or what, but every time he touched the ball, he was lightning, man. He was gone. And again,
he was pretty good, dude. He was gone. I didn't really see much of him play though. But I mean, from what I hear, he was pretty decent, because especially for not coming up in the system and not knowing too much about, American football. He's pretty decent,
No, definitely one of the best international students we've had for sure, as far as football goes. And you know what, Paul, I didn't have this intention when we started this. We seriously, Asian alumni at Rio Hondo Prep football. I would put the Asian football players of Rio Hondo Prep up against Asian players from anywhere else.
Anywhere.
Any area.
And hey, let's not hurt this guy's feelings. I know you didn't get to see him, but I got to watch him. Gary Shintaku. He was legit.
My coach.
Oh, there you
Absolutely.
go. Yeah, he was legit. And you can ask any kid down there that's my age or a little bit older who had the hardest and the most ripped up 6-pack from high school until he's probably like 50. I kid you not. Gary Shintaku was ripped, dude. And we used to always go up and punch his stomach because he was shredded. It was like an ironing board type grading board. It was steel, dude. And he actually he had to share running back duties, but he got to run the ball pretty well. And he played safety on that 77 team. but
Yeah.
he was quick, dude. He was super quick. So I wouldn't put him up there as a top because he had to share time with a lot of those guys, but he definitely was a very good athlete.
Yeah, no, I didn't get to see him. We've seen the footage, of course, when he was coaching us, and as a guy who played under as a young kid, I just remember how smart he was as a coach, and he had us running triple options. I mean, he was doing stuff with fourth and fifth graders that I don't think anybody could do, and always had cool gadgets and stuff. One of my favorite coaches of all time, and he had a brother also, didn't he? Norman Shintaku?
Yeah.
A couple of years.
Norman Shintaku.
Oh, you're laughing. I don't know what you mean, but I'll leave it there. Anyway,
Norm, let's just say Norm was funny.
Okay.
Put it this way: have you known any senior at Rio Hondo Prep to play on the JV football team?
No, I'm not. So polar opposite from his brother.
Which was sad because he actually was a good athlete, dude. And he was fast,
really?
But yes, he was just different, dude. I don't want to get into it that way, but you know what I mean?
No worries. Hey.
One game, his senior year on our team, I think he scored 7 touchdowns, bro.
Really?
Yeah, we beat, who was it? I can't remember what team it was, but by himself, he scored 7 touchdowns.
Wow. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Hey, at any level, that's cool.
Yeah, exactly. So he was just different. That's all. He's a funny dude. He was a funny guy.
This is probably even before your era. But I again,
Mass Camp, huh? Is that what you're gonna say?
Mass Camp. Okay, tell me about him.
You're right. It is before my era, but all the stories I heard about this guy, and he was all in the record books and most yardage this and most TDs. Apparently, he was some legitimate running back back then, kind of like a fast little maybe a Wendell Tyler type runner or something.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I guess.
Nice reference. Yeah.
Yeah. What I've heard. You know?
Yeah. Everyone always said, "Oh yeah, Armand." I'm like,
right,
what?
Right.
You know, but no, you're right. And then Steve Martin again. I didn't see him, but I heard he did he was their entire team basically on that 72 team.
Too. He was super quick, dude.
Yeah, quite the run. The guy with the ball in his hands. When I talked to him, he was just like, "Yeah, I just didn't want to get tackled," So one of those guys.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see. I have this list. We've hit on a lot of different guys here, and then a couple more guys from. Let me see. What era would that be? A guy that was usually you don't have a lot of big guys at Rio. This dude was big. He was scary. He did everything. I got to practice with him, and I was terrified. I'm talking about Ryan Prest.
Oh Ryan, my goodness, he was huge,
dude. I was like, whoa, do we have to come out here? Like, right. He played linebacker. I remember they put him he was a tight end, played as a sophomore. His senior year, they put him at fullback just to run isolation plays and just clear it out. Oh my goodness. But on defense,
he would have been one of those guys too. I think if they would have given him the ball, if he was been a running back, he definitely was a good athlete and a beast. One of those he could be up there in the tough guy list too as well. He was an awesome baseball player too.
Yeah, could pitch it, could hit it over the fence. I mean, incredible player. But as far as sheer size, when you look, you don't look like a real guy,
right? His dad's pretty cool too. I love his dad.
Oh yeah, Mr. Pratt. And then a guy I played with that again was to me a football player, a nose guard that doesn't get. Those nose guards don't get mentioned very much. Tough as nails, comes from a great family, and that's Brad Hanna. A guy that was just nasty inside, had the best grip strength of anyone I've ever seen. No one was getting away from him.
Exactly.
Did you ever see his dad play?
Jim?
Not Jim.
I mean, Mike, you mean?
Mike, yeah. When I talked to Jim said Mike was always getting penalties and stuff.
He was one of those if I can't beat you, I'm gonna beat you.
Yeah. Oh man, I love it.
Hey, the handles were pretty good though. Jim was tough as nails. I think Jim he edged out Mike as far as being the best athlete of the boys. But Jim was on that 77 team. He played D-line. So I think he got his his that it's in the family blood, that definitely being able to play. And they have a sister named Lindy who was a super great athlete. Obviously, she didn't play football, but she was good at everything else in Rio. Super stud.
Gotcha. Yep. And then I want to mention, back to families, and I'm going to mention these guys just because there was kind of one after another. One of them was on 3 championship teams. Another one played, was a senior when I was a sophomore, and may have been the second best tackler to Ryan Prest. And that was Jason Dinius, his older brother, Seth Dinius.
Right.
Seth was a monster, a sack machine, and then had pretty good hands as a tight end as well.
Yeah, he was definitely legit too. Yeah, you're right.
And Taylor,
there's so many guys you can pick out, dude.
I know there's so many. That, I don't know if we're gonna be able to do a list here, but here's what we're gonna do. I have an idea. Taylor Dinius, not to forget about you. He was on one of the first championship teams, played alongside my brother, carried on their tradition. So, Paul, this is way harder than I thought it would be.
Way harder, bro. I told you.
Like, what are we gonna do here? Here's what we're gonna do. And I'll let you go from any era. I can really only do the era of guys that I saw. We're going to go just 5 each, 5 running backs.
Okay.
So that'll give us 10.
All right.
Then we're going to go 5 defensive players, just guys we think of, we like their game. I think that's the only way we could do this. What do you think?
All right, let's try to do that. I'm looking at my list right now. I might have to add some more players. So we're going to go 5D and 5O?
5D, 5O, yeah. Like I said, this is hard, but this is
super hard, man.
It's I want people, here's my challenge, a quick commercial to the people listening out there.
Oh, wait a minute, dude. People are going to get killed. Jake Hogan. We forgot to even mention
Jake Hogan. Oh, my goodness.
Yep. What about him, bro?
Thank goodness.
He was a super beast, too.
Wow, you're right. Catching passes, but was one heck of a defensive player as well. One of the top, I would say, one of the top all-around football players in Rio history for sure.
Yep, we almost missed him off the list.
And I guarantee, we're gonna get, as soon as I post this in a few weeks, whenever we do this, we're gonna get emails blown up. How could you say so and so? How could you forget? Well, I'll tell you guys right now, listening, my challenge to all you guys, I want each of you to make a list and send it to me. I'll read it on the air. You send me a list. Send me your top 5.
Great. Do that.
You know what I'm saying? People, so give me a description of a player that you like. Some of your memories. This is what this new podcast is for. So let's just roll with it, Paul. Let's just go offense. We'll go one at a time, and this is in no order, but this is just the names we're going to come up with. First name, RHP running backs. I'm going to go Landon Goodwill.
Okay.
And we're sticking off with offense for right now. Okay.
Okay.
So first running back in Rio history that you want to have on this list.
I'm going to go back old school, and I'm doing it strictly by the success of the team and by his numbers and how fast he was. And because I actually got to witness it with my own eyes, every single game. And that is Scott Moore.
Scott Moore. Okay. Yeah. It means more when you get to physically see it, for sure.
Yeah.
And we all have that recent relevance bias too. And you're good at going back and talking about the old school stuff too. So, okay. I like it. Let me see here. Number 2, I only got 4 more running backs to write down here. You're going to go a little older school, probably. Again, this is in no order, guys. I'm going to go Jacob Blake. Blake. I think he's got to be on this list if we're making it here. Landon Goodwill, Jacob Blake, so far for me. Another running back there, Paul.
Man, this is tough. This is really, really tough.
Remember, you got to please all the different eras. Someone from the 70s, someone from the 80s. I'll probably hit the 90s and 2000s because that's what I saw. But yeah.
I mean, I watched him this whole season 2 in the 2000s, and I like him, and I've known him since he's a little kid, and he was Atlantic Pirate, and he's a neighbor right down the street. I'm gonna have to go with Nate Tycho, bro.
I love it. I was gonna put him out there, but I'm glad it was you. You definitely deserve that honor knowing him so well. So Nate Tycho, absolutely one of the higher ranked guys on the all-time list. This may be recency bias, and I've talked about him for months. Every person I said, come watch this guy, they were amazed. They said I did not undersell him. He's a recent graduate. I got to go with Jonathan Guerrero, man.
Definitely.
I got to go with Guerrero.
I would not argue there.
Ooh, every pick. This must be what a GM feels like in the NFL draft, man.
Oh,
These
definitely.
This could change everything.
and this is a lot harder for us because we don't have to go by their off field shenanigans.
Everyone's pinning. Everyone on this list is pinning. You're right.
Exactly. Now, this isn't, a numbers thing for me as far as like, them being on the all-time list at Rio with yardage and all that other kind of stuff. I'm going by, the way they played and stuff like that. I'd have to go Pete Amundsen Sr. for one of the beastliest in the trenches type runners,
I love it.
If it's 4th and 1, he's going to get you that one all day long.
Man, that is high praise for sure.
Yeah,
Pete Amundsen Sr. I like that. Man, we already got a great backfield here. I got to tell you, man alive. I was looking at my list here. There were 2 names that maybe you or may not know, probably these guys that I forgot to mention as just part of our overall group of guys. Actually, there might be 3 here. So think about your selections if you want. Bill Baumgartner and Joe Padilla, 2 of the best running backs I've seen at Rio. Bill ran with ease, but he ran angry when he needed to. Padilla was just a slasher, tough as nails. 2 guys on my brother's championship team in 2004 that I think deserve a little high praise for their talents as well.
Totally forgot about those guys till you brought them up.
You see how hard this is? I mean,
yeah.
And as soon as I turn this off, Paul, it's going to be like, oh, wait a minute.
Exactly.
So, please make your letters kind. Okay. And then I'll mention one other name, Mike Galvan. I wrote him down. So I'm sorry, 2 other names. Mike Galvan, the quietest, tough bad guy football player out there, middle linebacker who, and then one more name I'll mention is Charles Quintero. Who played fast. He could play defensive line, safety, outside linebacker.
Everything. Yep.
He was all everything. So just some names I wanted to mention that we may have passed over. This is how many years of real football that we're trying to do here in an hour, right?
Exactly. We're doing like 40 years of real football, man.
40. Yeah, exactly. Hey, we may have to do this again. We'll see how this goes. Okay. You've done 3 running backs. I've done 3 running backs. I'm going to reserve guys that I did not see.
Okay.
For probably your eyes, since you will have a better assessment. Man, we got these guys right at the top. What do you do here? Who do you take? Again, this is who I've seen run the football at Rio Hondo. So the past 30 years or so. I already did Blake. This is where I may have to have you step in here again. I want to say Rick Johnson should be on this list. I didn't see Rick play, but I want to take everyone's word for it and say Rick Johnson, just because I don't want to put someone else on here that maybe I saw but wasn't as good as Rick. So I'll say that. What do you think? What do you think of that selection?
I like it.
Okay.
I like it.
And you probably would have wrote it down, but I'll just steal that one from you so that we have a few more. Okay. Your turn, Mr. Clark.
I'm going to go with Mike Whiteside.
Love it. Hey, Thunder and Lightning, back to back.
Exactly. Yeah, from that same team.
Man, what did Todd have to throw any passes? I mean, did he just hand the ball to those 2 guys?
Yeah, just when he wanted to showcase that he could throw the ball, that's when he threw. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, what a duo back there. Okay, so that is 4 for you. I took 4 again. I heard Rick Johnson was just all everything, so I threw him in there. Now, who do we got left here, man? I'm looking at a list of like 18 dudes that I wrote down.
Right.
And as far as impact for me, I went almond. I'm gonna do this is just because when I fell in love with Rio football, this had such an impact on me. I'm gonna go Josh Krieger. I'm gonna throw Josh Krieger on there.
Okay.
I'm gonna it's again just what I saw as a kid. That team, those teams there, his ability to just kind of break away from everyone, a smaller guy. I'm gonna get some pushback for this, but I really liked watching Josh Krieger as a kid run the ball.
The reason why I'm going to agree with you on that is because I physically got to play against him in that game, dude, and he shook me so bad so many times. I never got one clean tackle on him.
Okay. Everyone else, there are a lot of guys on this list I mentioned who I saw. A lot of you guys I didn't. You know what? I've taken one guy on this list who I didn't see play. So anyway, okay, Paul. Last of the 10 guys we're going to mention here. Who do you got? You got to dig deep.
I'm going to go with Greg Bollinger.
Wow, Greg Bollinger. Okay. Yep. Okay, I like it, man. I like
once
it.
Again, I got to see him and more of him than I saw of the the younger generation. And trust me, if you were able to see him play, you would I think you would like my choice there too.
Sure, no doubt. And we a lot of honorable mentions on here. We've talked about so many players. You mentioned Don Bedoya. I mentioned Steve Almond, Bill Baumgartner, Ed Maldonado, Josh Coulter, who was quarterback, then played fullback. I mean, a lot of names on here, but these are just the names that come to mind for us. So in the recap, for me, I have Landon Goodwill, Jacob Blake, Jonathan Guerrero, Rick Johnson, and Josh Krieger. And Paul, did you write yours down? Do you remember?
No.
Yeah, I got it right here. I wrote them down for you.
Okay, because I saw you writing, so I didn't write.
It's all good. Paul's list is Scott Moore, Nate Tycho, Pete Amundsen Sr., Mike Whiteside, and Greg Bollinger.
And Paul Clark, honorable mention on that list.
you're the next man in, right? After one of those guys has a long game, you go in and give him a breather, right? Oh boy.
Exactly.
Man, that was fun. We got this down to 10. Listen, if you disagree or you just, I want fan interaction here. So this is another reason I
think that's why I did it too. I did not put some other, like Chuck Mariotti could easily be on that list.
Absolutely.
He was so good. You got a couple more that could probably be on that list, but I want to see what other people think,
Yeah.
Because there was so many athletes that went there and that were so good.
Definitely. And we mentioned almost every name we could come up. I got a guy from 2000. I'll talk about their senior years, 2006, 1999, 2022, 1991, and 1996. I think I spread it out pretty good there.
Yeah, you shared. That was good.
Yours are 70s, 90s, even a 2000. So we'll put this list out too when we release this episode. Okay, now to the side of the ball that wins championships, Paul. I'll let you go first this time. The 5 Rio defensive players that you think of when you think of Rio football, or your favorite guys.
5 of them. Okay. I'm going to put Dave Carson's going to be on one of the lists.
Got him right here. Dave Carson.
Yep. Dave Carson.
I knew he would be. Okay.
Yep.
And I mentioned this guy already. I'm sticking with it. Jason Ramos to me. Yes. And I don't want to forget about his brother, Dave. Dave, I love you.
Both of those guys at the Charter Oak game, and it was great to see him. And we were reminiscing and stuff along with Freddie. So definitely. Yeah. I agree with you though on that.
Good times. Dave, great player. And again, that family connection, it's one big theme here. So Jason Ramos for me, Dave Carson for you. Okay. Your next pick, we'll say, not second.
Because pound for pound, bro, I will never ever forget the way he played and how tough he was. Mike Murphy. He can mix it up with anybody, and he was quick. It's not about being big. And he played defensive end. You got to remember that. He played defensive end. Now you've seen him, as an adult, years after he stopped playing. Now imagine him a little bit lighter inside.
I've seen the footage. He's all over the field.
Honey badger. He probably was the first honey badger.
Wow. That is high praise from Paul Clark. I got to say, I had Mr. Murphy. Yeah. Coach me. So is Mr. Murphy, but I had Mike Murphy on my list of just like RHP football greats. I didn't think he'd be here. But this is really no. And I don't mean that, in a negative way, just like, man, there's so many good players. That's high praise from you, Paul.
Thank you.
Very, very high praise. Okay. I'm looking at my guys here on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah, I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking with this from earlier. Cody Cal, to me, anchor of a defense, a guy that was tough, has gone into law enforcement since then. Just dude that's built, a dude that you didn't want to mess with, and he had your back as a teammate. So a great defensive player, a real Hondo Prep. Now Paul's turn again. Here we go.
With Jake Hogan.
I love it. Jake Hogan, a guy we didn't skip over, just we're going through all these names. Jake Hogan's a great pick, a guy that was very solid all around, but especially defensively for that really special, that special era of Rio football. It was cool. I got to ref a game at PCC and he was playing in the game, and just kind of, we like nodded to each other, whatever, didn't talk much, but it was cool to be on the same field with that guy when he played in college. So Jake Hogan bumping in there as a defensive player. Okay, man, we got a good list already here. Who do I got here? You may go that direction. You may go that direction. You got two more picks, and I'm guessing you'll probably go with a different era here. I'll save that. Yeah, I got to go Ryan Prest. Ryan Prest, big, scary. We know what he could do. The dude, one of the best things he did was punt, which was crazy. The dude could kick the, but we don't worry about that stuff. But Ryan Prest there at linebacker, just the big force that he was, very, very, very scary indeed. All right. We each have two left. Norm Schultz for defense. Yeah. Interesting.
He played linebacker. He played linebacker and he can hit.
Nice. Very, very nice. Norm Schultz. Yep. You mentioned him early on, just about the overall skill he had. What do we got left? And again, we're not having guys on each side of the ball here. We could have, a lot of these guys could be both sides, running easily, but we're just trying to get more names here. Okay, my last defender. I want to go Dave Joe, but I'm thinking maybe you go that way. And I got one more pick after this. So if you don't go that way, I think I'm just a little preview there. Again, I didn't see him play, so I can't really. I'm going Arthur Taskison. I mean, Arthur is one of my favorite guys to watch on defense. I'm a little biased maybe, but played extra years of varsity and just a stud defensive player, in my opinion.
Right.
Arthur Taskison.
And you were right. I was going to go, if you didn't pick him, I was going with DJ.
Dave Joe. I love it. I love it. Great stuff.
Boy would hit you. He would hit you.
and probably the proudest member of the Asian football club at Rio Hondo Prep, right?
Carrying that Asian pride flag strong, baby.
I can't wait for some of these guys to hear this podcast. I think they're going to love it. Okay. My final pick. You got 5 guys there on the defensive side of the ball. I probably got to go with somebody that I saw play in person. Although I'm listening to you talk too. You talked about Doug Walsh. You talked about Dave Joe.
He's like my 6th person I was going to put if I had to put another one.
This is way harder than you think, man.
Super hard.
I'm like Chaz, Hannah, McGarren, another Hannah. Ooh, this is tough. Sorry, guys. This is just people I saw. I got it down to 2 guys, and one of them's going to hate me if I leave him off. No, you know what? I think overall football player. I got 2 other guys I'm thinking about. I'm sorry. Kirk Coulter for me.
Yep. I knew you were going to say that one.
Kirk Coulter, middle linebacker on the first 11-man championship team. I had some other guys in mind. AJ, Fred. You guys were up there.
6th? Who was coming off the bench?
See now you're gonna do this to me. Why are you doing this to me now? I was leaning towards Fred there. I was leaning towards him of all the football. Just a guy that would a wedge buster, big time. AJ also leaning that way. Oh my goodness, Mike Galvan, Charles Contreras. See, there's just once
There's
you
so
start,
many, right? See, that's what
you
I'm
just
trying
have
to
to
tell you.
you just have to throw something out there. We could do
Right.
top 20 guys, but those are my picks. Jason Ramos, Cody Cal, Ryan Prest, Arthur Taskison, and Kirk Coulter are my defensive
Nice.
players.
Beautiful.
And then you had Dave Carson, Mike Murphy, Jake Hogan, Noam Schultz, and Dave Joe.
There you go. There you go.
I don't know how, but we did it in no particular order. You just heard the top 10 defensive players in Rio Hondo history, at least from our opinions here, Paul Clark and Matt Hersema.
Top 5, you mean top 5 and top 5.
Top five. Yeah, we'll go. Yeah. So 10 names, top 5 in each of our opinions. Top 10,
There you go.
top 5 running backs, top 5 defensive players. And if you guys like this podcast, I'm sure we could do something like this later on down the road. Paul, this was so much fun, man.
Matt, thank you so much for having me again. I love your shows. Keep up the great work. I love the background. I love the jersey. I love the microphone. It's legit.
Hey, if you're going to do something, do it right. We learned that somewhere, I think. You know what I mean?
That's right, baby. I appreciate it.
Hey, can't wait. Hey, August 26th, Rio Hondo against the El Monte Lions season opener, man. Can't wait for it.
Can't wait, baby. I'll be there with you.
All right. Sounds good, Paul. We'll see you
All right.
then.
Thanks
so
again.
much.
All right.
Got
Talk
it.
to you. Bye-bye.
Well, we got it done, but I cannot tell you guys how difficult that was. For weeks, Paul and I have been talking about this and tried to make our list, tried to write names down. It's really hard when you are talking about guys you didn't see, but Paul had the advantage there in seeing different eras more than I have. So I thought we got a good balance there of 5 guys that I selected, 5 guys he selected, and then same thing there on the defensive side of the ball. So 5 running backs, 5 defensive players, way harder than you think, guys. Oh, what about, we're going to leave someone off the list, right? So that's what makes this fun. And I want to do more shows like this in the buildup for Real Hondo Prep Football, building up for the kickoff. And that's what this show is about. It's dedicated to Real Hondo Prep Football. And hopefully you had your name heard, or someone that you played alongside, you heard their name. I tried to throw out as many names as I could remember. We didn't have any notes in front of us, just all from memory. So if we were a little biased one way or another, hey, please forgive us. But I would love to hear your comments on this episode. You might have to listen to it again, maybe, and listen to some of the things we said about specific players, but send me your thoughts. Maybe if you have a top 5, if you have a top 10, just memories of the specific players we mentioned. I want this to be fan interactive, and I have my Get Home Safe podcast that the fans are great in tuning in and everything. But my vision was for this type of podcast, it's not going to be year round, but it's going to be a few weeks before the season, and then all during the season. The Charge to Keep podcast dedicated to Real Hondo Prep Football. So much fun. Hopefully we got the crowd, you guys all stirred up, all ready to rock and roll. And let's kick this thing off. Let's get going. I want week 1, El Monte Lions, August 26th at Care Park there in Irwindale. And be sure, if you can't make the game, to tune in on the I think it's the NFHS network. And if you haven't heard that yet, we'll get you more information on ways to watch the football games. But Real Hondo Prep Football, man, it's here. It's on our doorstep, and it goes in the blink of an eye. So be sure to tune in weekly on the Charge to Keep podcast for Friday episodes before the season gets going. And then once the season does get going, we'll probably release a game recap and a preview of the next opponent on Sundays, probably maybe Mondays, but sometime in there, we'll keep you updated on all that. I want to get emails from you guys, so send them my way. Charge to Keep pod at gmail.com. Let me double check that, since I do have a few of these now. Charge to Keep pod at gmail.com. Send us your email, send us your thoughts, your reactions to this episode. You can also follow us on social media, Charge to Keep pod, or Charge to Keep on Facebook. You can find it. If you need my help there, just let me know. And I'll point you in the right direction. But you can listen to the podcast on Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you listen to podcasts pretty much. And you can, of course, watch the podcast here on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. Whew, I am. My mind is still racing after going down memory lane there, going down in the history books. Hopefully, we got some agreements from you. Hopefully, maybe we got some shocking names on here. But it was a lot of fun to do, and I can't wait to put out more content like this in upcoming episodes. We're going to talk to the broadcast team of Rio. We're going to talk to players, coaches, maybe some other fans, just to get this thing rolling. And then once the season hits, much like last year on the Get Home Safe podcast, just a recap and a preview along with special guests throughout the season. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into this edition of the Charge to Keep podcast. We haven't done a whole lot of them yet, but a few are here in the books. Hopefully you guys liked our new intro that my good friend, Dr. Chris Albaugh, recorded for me. A big fan of Rio Hondo prep football and a big time public address announcer for various college and professional sports here in Southern California. Does a great job on that. So thank you to Chris. Thank you to you guys. Paul Clark, thank you, my friend. That was a lot of fun. And I'm sure we'll be talking before this airs, but we'll also reminisce and listen to it and see what we got right, what we got wrong as well. Guys, the season is fast approaching, August 26th. It'll be here before you know it, but before then, we will have plenty of content. Be sure to tune in. Guys, this is a kind reminder to always be humble in victory, gracious in defeat, because we always have a charge to keep.
A charge to keep I have, a God to glorify, a never-dying soul to save, and fit it for the sky. Arm me with jealous care, as in thy sight to live. And, O thy servant, Lord, prepare a strict account to give.